Hello and welcome, we're back at it again. Today we're gonna continue with Emma's testimony, because there's another part of it, about the picture she drew. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago, of the murder, of Neil Marco's murder. The flash of lightning was so bright all I could see were shadows. After that I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Are you sure about that? Like, are you certain that that's what happened? To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind. I mean, she was like 14. Must have been very, very traumatic for her. I'm not surprised she remembers it so clearly. Put yourself in her shoes, Your Honor. You're a 14-year-old girl, and this serial killer just took you hostage, or tried to take you hostage, right? That alone, pretty traumatizing. I think many people would agree. If they were in that situation, honestly, regardless of age, they would be pretty scared. That's a terrifying thing to deal with. But then not only that, this dude rushes in to save you. Okay, so far so good. And then he's murdered in front of you. Just think about that, Your Honor. Just consider that for a long moment. That would be pretty traumatic for anyone, regardless of age, to see someone murdered in front of you. Can we agree on that? I mean, it should be pretty obvious that that would be awful traumatic for a young girl to go through. So, not surprised she remembers it so clearly. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. Sorry, I heard something going on outside, but I think it's just the cat and or dog running around doing something weird, because they tend to do that. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. And cross-examine I will, Your Honor. Okay. This is where I present the autopsy report. Because according to the report, he was not stabbed in the chest. He was stabbed in the back. He was stabbed in the back. Yeah, stabbed in the back, died from a punctured heart and lung. Objection! So, Emma, sorry to say, but, doesn't quite line up. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday. I don't doubt what you remember. However, it is important to keep in mind that the human memory is incredibly fallible. Something I learned in psychology class. I took a regular psychology class in high school, and then the next year I took AP psychology. Didn't take the AP exam, because the previous year I had taken AP calculus, and I didn't want to deal with another AP exam. I just thought psychology was interesting. But in both classes, one thing we learned is that the human memory is not nearly as good as we would like to think it is. It's really not. Eyewitness testimonies in criminal courts can be very, very misleading, and they're not always as, like, bulletproof or reliable as we would like to think they are, because we don't want to doubt our own memories, we don't want to doubt what we remember, so it's almost kind of scary to think that your memory is not as good as you think it is, but that's just how it is, you probably misremember a lot of things that you think you remember clearly. I know I have a crappy memory in general, so, that wasn't hard to come to terms with, but what was I saying? Right, went off on a tangent. I tend to do that a lot. Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. Right, because I have to do all the work, because everybody else is too dumb to do it themselves. Part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report. We're still not mentioning... okay, well, apparently I choose the tip of the weapon. Looks like he's holding... it doesn't look like he's holding a knife. It looks like he's holding a small plank of wood. It looks like he's holding a TV remote.
Take that!
The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright. It is just a drawing. But, Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken, too. If I recall. Don't see, but the issue is, the tip of the knife was found in Mr. Marshall's body. So how would it be there before he had been stabbed? And for some reason, we're still skipping over the fact that Emma said Marshall was stabbed in the chest when he was actually stabbed in the back. The tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body. Yeah, see, just think about it for a moment. Why would it already be there if he hadn't yet been stabbed? You know, it would make a whole lot of sense. It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer. I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma.
Objection!
And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? Is everybody else too stupid to notice this stuff? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Ah! What's the meaning of this? Why do you always ask that? You're a terrible judge. I'm sorry, but you are. Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Then how'd the tip get in the victim? Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. Edgeworth, I thought you were smarter than this. Couldn't even say that line. The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That is possible, yeah. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already about a little something called a falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, right? Oh, I know. I've been doing that my whole career. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Hot. That's pretty rough. Order, order, order. Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. In a very orderly fashion, you see. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. As you do. After receiving the King of Prosecutors award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. So did they, like, temporarily put a serial killing investigation on a hold just to have an award ceremony? I feel like that's not very responsible of them. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story there is a lie. I'm not lying. I'm not saying you are. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? There's another one. There's another. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright. In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? Would I ever make a claim like that without evidence to back it up? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. Apparently, it's the Gantt team picture. Just check this. Yeah, from the prosecutor's award. So did he manage to, like, take it off the trophy? I'm still concerned about why that suit of armor is glowing. It's got, like, a radiant light effect around it, and it's super weird. It's very strange. Even the parts that don't look like they should be glowing are glowing. Like the red scarf thing and the red, thing, the blade, those are glowing too, and that's really weird. I shouldn't be, like, this bothered by it, but it's very strange. Like, why are they glowing? Why? The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past, as does fucking everything in this trial, apparently. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture of the awards... Oh, that's not Phoenix talking, my bad. This is a picture of the awards ceremony. Ah! What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife. As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. How would Dark have gotten it, though, is now the question. Order, order, order. Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. His broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors Award's knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? Phoenix, think about it. Emma's saying that Dark was holding the knife, but the way you're theorizing, it was Neil that was holding the knife. You know? So that's... it's a little strange. Sorry. Sometimes I say things to just buy time while I'm busy moving things around, like swapping my earbuds or... Hang on, is everything working? Sorry, I just did something weird with the recording. I might have to watch that back later to make sure nothing went weird. I heard my own voice in my earbud, and I was like, uh-oh, I messed something up, but it seems like it's working now. It'll be fine. Where was I? What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Yeah, now you're getting it. Now you're understanding. He's starting to believe. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? I don't know, but we'll figure it out eventually. It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions. That was Emma, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Emma. Wait, I remember now. I remember everything. Witness? Mr. Edgeworth. What is it? Could you show me your evidence list again, please? His list? The one with that picture scribbled on the back. The Blue Badger? I think that's what it's called. I don't remember. I knew it. This picture... I'm the one who drew it. What? You drew that? That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me. Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Yeah, probably. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye? Yes, Your Honor. First the knife mix-up and now the Blue Badger? This should be interesting. It'll be very interesting, probably. Emma's recollection. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife, just then there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow. Well, now let's solve this. This is certainly most unusual. It's a bit strange, Your Honor. Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed I'm assuming that's an error. It should be designed. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may now begin its cross-examination. Stop, please, don't pursue this any further. Well, Lana, what's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair. But you can't do this, I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you just leave it at that? Well, because there's many questions left unanswered. Chief Prosecutor Sky, we've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Thanks, Edgeworth, I guess. Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. Or the core of the murder, you could say. Okay. Okay, so present unstable jar. Whoops. Yeah.
Objection!
I don't know why I said yeah. That's just how it is sometimes. The mysterious blue badger was in fact this. But that's... what exactly is that? It's an unstable jar, Your Honor. Physically unstable. And it's unstable because I put it back together with super glue. Wouldn't do a very good job of holding anything. I believe it's some sort of jar. But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the blue badger. Not from this angle. Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint. I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Okay. The guide can't help me much here, because it just says rotate the jar so it looks like this. Oh, it's a link. Hang on. Okay, I see. Okay, I use that one. Rotate. Got it. Hang on. I'm doing the best I can here. I can't tell. I'm supposed to go where? Okay. Yeah, I could never do it. I'm very spatially unaware. No, that's not right either. Is it? No, it's not. I had it. I just had it. Oh my god. I'm doing the best I can. Please let this be over soon. I hate this music. Please tell me
Take that! Objection!
Please don't take health off for that, because it's fucking... This is hard. I know, I'm trying! The guide is not helping much. Okay, so I should turn it that way, first of all. And then go down? I think. Yeah.
Take that!
Please tell me this. Are you kidding me?
Objection!
This is gonna be frustrating. Is that not... Is that not it?
Take that!
Thank God. Okay, thank you. I did not want to have to do that again. I'm horrible at things like that. I'm not good at it. Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the blue badger. Well, they could. Arguably. No. It can't be. Well, clearly it is, so... we're just gonna have to accept it, I guess. Order in the court. I can't keep order in this court. The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious blue badger witnessed on the day of the crime was actually this.
Objection!
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? Yeah, you didn't really prove anything. So that badger thing was actually just a joke. That doesn't change anything.
Objection!
I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. How? Please do enlighten us. Indeed. Very well then. Please tell us. What's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? The location, apparently? Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yeah, there's definitely still some room for doubt there. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen this jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gant.
Objection!
But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself. Yes, and it is these two facts that reveal what actually transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room in Chief Gant's office.
Objection!
Are you implying the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gant's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. I've lost track of what's happening. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I don't, but thankfully I have this handy-dandy walkthrough right next to me that I can use to find the answer, because I'm too dumb to do it on my own. I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? A suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword. Yes. Yikes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking... Yes, there is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility. Of course, the perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless... I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright, what's the matter? If the events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Sky knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall... Yikes. That is not good. You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me? No! Yeah, just to really add on to that trauma. And there she goes. Trying to open my water bottle. God, I just want to drink water. Ooh, fuck. I nearly dropped the water bottle. And that would not have been good for anybody, especially me. I have so many wires going on around here right now. It would have been very bad if I spilled water. I never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented. What are you saying? Unfortunately, I'm accusing your sister of murder. I'm sorry, Miss Skye, but given the circumstances, Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her? I understand why you're a little upset here. Imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it? I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall? Evidence? I'm willing to bet you don't. Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony. I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead. You certainly can't get dead people to testify. And both Marshall and Dark are dead. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Touché, Miss Skye. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another. That's impossible. Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist? I've got to think back to the court record. Unfortunately, yeah, it does. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind is in the evidence. This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, would you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? Do not be mistaken, Miss Skye. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There's only one thing we seek, the truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased. It's the jar again. Yup. This is the message left by the deceased. This is that blue badger from before, right? Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Oh, looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. A message was left here, on the surface of this jar. What do you mean? Judge, you need to retire. You're too old for this. If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. That silence is very telling. Those ellipses say it all. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there is a line here, drawn in blood. So what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away, but blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No. Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written given the circumstances. His murderer's name. This should be easy enough, right? And then that... Whoop. Sorry. I'm not very dexterous. Boom.
Take that!
That should do it. It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. Of all people. She may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Skye. See, Worthy, can't say I didn't warn you. Oh God, what are you doing here? Chief Gant, do you understand the implications of what you've done? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Ack. Yes, Worthy, because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction.
Objection!
But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. You just called him an innocent man, and now you're like, oh, it's not important that he actually killed like 4 dozen other people. Didn't you know? We aren't defenders of justice. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence forgery, ultimately this responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. Ah, my foot's falling asleep. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? A lot of corruption. He might have sent an innocent man to his death. How can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order, 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 order! Something tells me that's, not quite getting through to the crowd. The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. To be continued. And that's where we're going to end this episode. Oh man, we still got 2 more sections of trial. We have trial ladder and then trial ladder 2. So there's 2 more parts. Save my progress. Heck yeah. And then we're going to end this video, and next time we're going to continue with trial ladder. So see you then.